Hi, I'm Terry, this week I'd like to talk about influence, how we influence others, and often more than we realize. And what's prompting my thinking about influence is that my wife Anita and I went out grocery shopping this morning early, avoiding a lot of the traffic and easier to keep social distancing and all that kind of thing. And the store we go to for groceries is not what I call a friendly, overly friendly atmosphere. Go into the store and most of the employees or people who are stocking shelves kind of look away and are very quiet. They're not rude, but they're not friendly either. And there are a few exceptions, like there are 3 or 4 people who work there who are very friendly and outgoing and go out of their way to ask if there's anything they can help us with. But the store in general has kind of an attitude or an atmosphere that's heavy and not engaging. But it's a close store, it's stocked well, so it's efficient. So we keep going back there. And from time to time, we run into the store manager, because he's around from time to time. I've asked him a couple of questions a couple of times, and each time I've asked him a question or just tried to interact with him, I went away with a little bit of frostbite. It was like I was interfering with his job, or I was a nuisance to him. And I've come to realize and paid attention over the past years how much a store manager affects the whole staff. Influence just goes throughout, and the staff either is hired because they match his attitude, or their attitude begins to resonate with his, and it affects the whole store. I noticed that most vividly over the years in big box hardware stores. There's some stores, there was an advertisement a while back for a hardware store, and a guy came into there with his hound dog, and he sent his hound dog out to find help in this hardware big box store, and eventually the dog came back just all tired, tongue hanging out, because he couldn't find anybody to help. Now, I've run into some hardware stores like that where physically the people that, when I was looking for some help to find something in that store, if I'd begin to approach them, they'd actually physically look down, turn away, and walk away from me. And that permeated the store in general. Very few exceptions to that attitude, and I realized that is a manager. A manager is infecting. And other hardware stores go out of their way. The one we shop right near us, people, the people who work there go out of their way to ask whether they can help us find something, and if I ask a question, they'll walk us halfway across the store or all the way across the store to find it, make sure that we know where it is. But influence. Now, I have influence over fewer people than I did when I was in career life. Then in a day or in a week, I might affect hundreds of people with my attitude. Now it's fewer, but yet each one of us influences. And I'm thinking to be more intentional. Just to say, hey, my attitude does affect others. In a household, in a group, and with neighbors, whoever we bump into, our attitude is so important because it influences and it multiplies. I'm thinking, what kind of a influencer would I like to be? What could I do to build people's spirits, to encourage them, to help them see life as maybe an adventure rather than an unfriendly place, or to bring a smile to their face, knowing that will be multiplied? It can be very simple, a smile, as we're walking around our complex and just see somebody and say hello, even if they don't respond. But influence. And Sometimes it takes a little more intentionality. This might even be one area where from time to time you have to fake it till you make it. Just to know that if I have a bad attitude, when I have a bad attitude sometimes, just to still put a smile on and be encouraging to people. I can encourage people or influence people toward joy and optimism when it's appropriate, toward care and concern and compassion, even if I don't feel it sometimes. There's an author and a speaker, John Maxwell, who wrote a book in which he said there are a lot of things that we cannot control. We can't determine just what happens in our lives all the time. We can't determine what events we'll run into, what the larger context will be. But he says one thing that we can work on and have some control over is our attitude. And when I get a bad attitude, it's amazing now that I am retired and have some space to work things through, to sit back and rework some of the inner goings on. I know that as I age, as I have more spaciousness in my life, my attitude and influence can be broader. Certain areas of life certainly get smaller as we age, just in terms of moving from career or family, the size of our family or raising kids if you've had kids, just or maybe more engagement in groups and so on. In that area, it might become smaller with age. I get that. But one area that we might expand a positive influence would be the people that we do bump into. So I'm thinking about that this week. How am I influencing people? When I engage a person, even if it's passing on the street, and then after I've engaged them, what just little snippet of influence did I have? Or engaging people more intensely, how do I influence them? So think about that with me. I wonder how we influence, and I wonder how we can intentionally influence. Have a great week.